Hello! So today I want to show you a quick and easy greeting card layout that you can make. The way that it's made, you end up doing like 2 at a time. It's really easy and quick, and the results are really pretty. So let's get down to it. So you're going to need 2 card bases. I'm using A6, so about 14.5 by 10.5. You can use whichever card size you want. You're going to need 2 pieces of paper that are about 1.5 centimeters smaller on both sides than your card base. So in my case, that's 9 by 13 centimeters. 1.5 centimeters is about a half an inch. So if you're doing like a 6 by 6 card, you'd want 2 pieces of paper that are 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and so on. So the 2 pieces of pattern paper that you want need to be, ideally, not essentially, but ideally should be matching but contrasting. So it doesn't have to be pattern paper, it could just be like solid cardstock, or a mix between pattern paper and solid cardstock, or glitter card and something else, but you know, basically just 2 contrasting but matching pieces of card or paper. You're going to need some scissors or a craft knife, a pencil and a ruler, some glue, some scrap card, which I've got here, foam tape or foam pads, which is optional, and I'm going to use a sentiment die, but if you have a stamp, that works fine as well. And then I also have on standby some decorative ovals. I've got some decorative kind of labels, but you can just do it with like a regular rectangle or square, or you know, a hand cut shape. It doesn't have to be fancy, but you know, if you have some fancy items, you can make use of those as well. I like these die cuts here. Right, so let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is cut my paper down to size. If I can figure out how to open my paper trimmer. Okay. So I'm going with 9 by 13. Now on the back side of these papers, I'll get my pencil. You just need a ruler or a straight edge to draw a line from corner to corner in both directions. And these are going to be our cutting guides. It's not big enough. So I'm just going to line that up. I'm doing it this way because it's easy to line it up the first cut, but then figuring out where the second cut goes is a bit more tricky. So it's easier if you just mark it off and then cut along the lines. Okay, once you've done that, just cut out your triangles. You can use scissors or a craft knife. So you see the first cut is pretty straightforward, but then figuring out this cut would have been more tricky if we hadn't marked it off first before we cut. You see that I haven't actually marked it off perfectly, but it's close enough. Now you want to arrange the 2 bits and pieces together. Okay, and then what you're going to do is swap out the two opposite triangles from one paper with the papers from the other. So what you end up with is something that looks like this. So that's why I said you end up making like 2 cards at a time, because you'll have 2 pieces for 2. So now all you have to do is glue this onto the front of your card. I like to leave a little bit of white space all around. Try and make it as even as possible. So I like to, leave a bit of white space all around. Oops. But if you wanted to, you could just butt all the pieces up together. Let's see how that looks. Which look do you prefer? I don't know. Maybe I'll do one of each. Okay, so now you just have to glue these pieces down. As long as you have like an even space all around the edges, then the spaces in the middle should kind of follow suit. Always just using slightly too much glue, and this glue is so wet it seeps out. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest, but I also hate waste, so I keep using it even though I don't like it very much. To make it easier to place, you could just add like a point in the center. The center's going to be covered up, so if you want to lay down the pieces and then mark it, or just mark the center of the card before you glue, that might make it easier to position. So now we've got the card front. I like this landscape orientation for these cards, but you can have them portrait, so decide what orientation you like, and then you need your topper. You can see on this one I used a scalloped oval, so I've got some options here. But if you don't have any fancy dies, you can just use a plain rectangle. So let's do that. So I want it to be about 70 by maybe 3 by 2 inches. Should be fine. Let's try that. I'm going to cut a piece of white card that is about 7.5 by 5 centimeters, or 3 inches by 2 inches. So this piece is actually slightly less than 3 inches, because that's what came out. So that's what it looks like. That's about the perfect sort of size. About 2 by 3 inches, 7 by 5 centimeters, something like that. Perfect. And then if you wanted to, you could do the round the corners. I can't find my corner winder at the moment. Oh gosh, everything is such a mess. I can't find my corner rounder, so I'm not going to round the corners, but you absolutely could. Sorry, I just knocked over a huge pile of paper. Okay, so here is the card, and like I said, you could use something fancier. You could use something like this. If you have something like this, that's quite pretty. But if you don't have fancy dies, a simple square will do, or rectangle will do. And then you need your sentiment now. I'm going to use my sentiment die, but if you have a stamp, you can certainly use that. And if you have good lettering skills, you can use that as well. Right, so I'm going to just cut some scrap black card for this. Oops. Should probably have taped it down. I'll have to go again. Okay, so there's my sentiment. I'm just going to put that on here. I'm going to arrange it at a bit of a jaunty angle. That seems okay. And then this die set actually comes with a teeny tiny heart. I'm going to cut a couple of them from the pink paper to add to the sentiment. Right, let's glue that. I'm going to glue this down. I hate this glue. I hate this glue so much. Okay, and then a little, oh gosh, that's way too much. No, I'm just going to put one heart in the corner. I've made a bit of a mess along the bottom, so I'm just going to trim that off. Just a slither. Okay, and now that will just sit here. You can use some foam tape or some foam pads. I think if you pop it up, it'll look good. And there is your card done. I think you can really, you can jazz it up. You could add some extra. This is like the most basic version. You could add some extras. You could add some flowers. You could add some stickers. You could add some, like a butterfly. I have quite a few of these pale pink pearls, which I think would peach. Sorry, they're not pale pink. They're peach. I think they'd go really well. They've matched the paper perfectly. So I'm gonna try and I'm just gonna add glue to the four corners. And then put, oh gosh, that's so typical. I've got some hair stuck. I'm such a messy crafter. Honestly, it's ridiculous. Gosh, I really do hate this glue. I should stop using it, but I keep using it. Oh, I think that's nice. Okay. So that just sort of makes it a little bit more interesting. Instead of just having the plain white, I thought the white was a little bit stark, but having the pearls in the corners is quite nice. There you go. So that's card number 1. And then you just repeat the same thing with card number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you my end result. Okay, so here was the first one that I did on camera. I added the pearls in the corner. It's kind of cute. And then this is the second one that I did. I didn't leave a gap between the papers. And then I used a scalloped edge oval, slightly smaller than the other one. I think I prefer this one. There they are, side by side. And then just to show a different orientation, it works with squares as well. This is a just under 6x6 card. And I've used a slightly different topper, again with the foam tape so that it's popped off a bit. And that's a different one. And then here's the twin. So I just used white card on this because I don't know, I just wanted to, I guess. And I've cut out these little flowers here, that's where these come from, for a little bit of a different embellishment. So here they are side by side. You've got your fraternal twins. And then this was one that I made a while ago. You can see I actually cut the sentiment from the same paper that I made the background from, and then I fussy cut these flowers from this paper here. And then this one is yeah, the other half of this one. So like I said, I just cut out a diamond shape from the white card, and then I used the same card as the background, you know, to make a little sort of mat for that, and then put the sentiment on top. Another little fussy cut flower from this paper here, and there you go. So those are those two together. So you've got your twins. So this is a fun method. So this is just like a fun method of making cards. They're very quick, they come together very quickly, but depending on how you do them, they can look really nice, they can look very different. So if you're organized and you've got all your papers selected and your sentiments stamped or cut, you know, you could make a production line, and this would be good for batch making as well. All right, thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a thumbs up, and then jump in the comments if you have anything to add, or maybe you just want to say hi. And also, in case you didn't know, we have a community. Mary Make One Makes, I've enabled the community, so if you give this a try, you can post your pictures there for everybody else to see. I think it's always nice to see what other people are doing, and for us to inspire and encourage each other. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.